I never thought coming back would feel like this. My name is Carter Sullivan, and I'm 40 years old. I grew up in the shadow of a family built on wealth and legacy, the youngest of 3 sons, but always the outsider. My father's empire in real estate was my inheritance, but it was never mine to claim. I escaped it all. Left for New York, far from the drama of the Sullivan name, thinking I could build something on my own. But it turns out, escaping doesn't mean you're free. My mother, Martha, called me to come back. A vague request. Just check in, Carter. I'm getting old. She wasn't the type to ask for help. Never had been. I should have known something was wrong, but I was too late. Now I'm standing in the doorway of my own house, and it feels like a stranger's home. I could smell the dust in the air, stale with years of neglect, but the scent of familiar oak and leather still clung to the walls. Everything looked the same, but the silence was off. I walked through the entryway and paused, wondering where she was. I thought I'd hear her voice, soft, comforting, like it used to be. Instead, I heard a faint shuffle. Then, I saw it. My mother, lying on the floor, crumpled on the doormat, wearing nothing but tattered clothes. Her once pristine face was pale, her eyes hollow. She didn't move. The warmth of the house, once so familiar, felt suffocating. And then I saw her, Victoria, my wife. She stepped right over my mother, like she wasn't even there. Her heels clicked across the hardwood floors, the sound sharp against the quiet. She didn't even glance down. I froze, heart pounding. The woman I had loved for so long, my wife, was standing in front of me, but she didn't look the same. Her eyes were cold, distant, like she was playing a part in some twisted game. She's just old, Carter, Victoria said, her voice flat. She doesn't need all that attention anymore. I'm just taking care of things. I couldn't understand it. How could she say that? How could she be so cold? So cruel? And that's when I realized everything was different. I had been gone for so long, thinking I was escaping my past, but the truth was, I'd been running from this. From the people I thought I knew, the ones I loved. Victoria had turned my mother into a servant in her own home. Not just neglected her, treated her like dirt. I could feel the anger building up inside me, the familiar fire I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't the woman I married. No, this was someone else, someone unrecognizable. This was betrayal. My world had just shattered, and I had no idea how deep this treachery went. But one thing was clear, I wasn't leaving until I figured out how far this went. I would uncover every lie. Every secret. No matter the cost. As I knelt beside my mother, my hand brushing her cold, lifeless one, Victoria's voice interrupted me. You should have stayed away, Carter. You've got bigger problems than you realize. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. There was something more to this, something I hadn't seen yet. Something bigger. The door slammed behind me. My heart raced. The floorboards creaked as I slowly stood up. I was no longer just an outsider. I was a target. And now I had to find out why. The truth was out there. I could feel it. And I wouldn't stop until I found it. Not this time. End of chapter 1. I left my mother on the floor, her frail body barely visible under the heavy weight of neglect, and I turned toward the hallway. My thoughts raced, but I couldn't stop shaking. Victoria's cold demeanor still echoed in my mind. She doesn't need all that attention anymore. The words repeated themselves like a curse. How could she do this? How could the woman I married, the woman I trusted above all, allow this to happen? My mind was clouded with anger, but underneath it all, something else gnawed at me. Fear. Fear of the secrets I hadn't yet uncovered. The house was unnervingly silent as I walked deeper into the familiar rooms. I moved through the living area, pausing at the bar, where we used to have late-night drinks together. The photographs on the walls, once comforting, now felt like an indictment. I could almost hear my father's voice in my head, telling me, trust no one. His warning, given so many years ago, suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks. I had come back to fix things. But all I had found was betrayal. And the deeper I went, the more it felt like I was stumbling into something far darker than I could have ever imagined. I pushed through the glass door leading out to the garden. The smell of the freshly mowed lawn hit me, a sickly sweet aroma that seemed to mock me. There, by the stone fountain, I saw a figure in the distance. It was Henry, my best friend, or at least, I thought he was. He stood there, nervously glancing around, his hands shaking. When he saw me, he froze, like a deer caught in headlights. "Carter," he said, his voice tight. "What are you doing here?" "What's going on, Henry?" I asked, my tone colder than I intended. "Why was Victoria?" He stepped back, glancing over his shoulder as if making sure no one could hear us. "You don't understand. It's not what you think." "She didn't," he faltered, biting his lip, clearly conflicted. "It's just there's too much going on, too much at stake." "Too much at stake?" I repeated, narrowing my eyes. "For who? You? Victoria? Or is it just about the money, Henry? Because that's what this feels like." He shifted uneasily. "Look, you don't know everything. You don't know what she's been through. What we've all been through." "I don't know." My fists clenched at my sides. "She's been using my mother like a damn servant, Henry. My mother, who's been loyal to us, to this family. And you stand there defending her?" Henry hesitated, then lowered his voice. "You don't know the whole story, Carter. There's a bigger picture here, one you're not seeing." The tension in the air was suffocating. I could feel it pressing down on me, but I wasn't going to back down. "Not now. Tell me everything, Henry. Right now. I don't care about your excuses or her bigger picture. My mother's life is in danger. And if you're part of this," my voice trailed off as I felt a sudden wave of nausea rise up. He looked over his shoulder again before stepping closer to me. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not just about her, Carter. It's about control. You've been out of the loop for too long. Victoria and your mother have been playing their own game, and you're the last piece they need." And David, he paused, the name hanging in the air like poison. "David Carrington is pulling the strings." I froze. "David?" My voice cracked. "What does he have to do with this?" "Everything," he said. "He's the one who's been orchestrating all of it. The money, the deals, the will. Your mother was never in charge, Carter. Not like you thought. She's been compromised from the start." I felt the ground shift beneath me. The truth, all this time, had been in plain sight, and I had been blind to it. So this whole thing, it was all planned. The betrayal. The manipulation. You, Victoria, my mother, all of you were in on it. Henry took a step back, his face clouded with guilt. "It's not that simple. You have no idea what kind of pressure we've all been under. What she's done, what David has done, it's not something you can just fix by walking in here and demanding answers. It's bigger than you think." The air was thick with lies, each word twisting and turning like a snake in my gut. I couldn't breathe. "I don't care how big it is, Henry. I'm going to fix this," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm going to expose every last one of you for what you've done." As I turned to leave, Henry's voice followed me, weak, almost pleading. "Carter, be careful. This isn't just about you anymore. If you go after David, you'll be walking into a trap. They're watching you." The word trap rang in my ears as I walked back toward the house. The door was still ajar. I stepped inside, my mind racing. My heart pounded in my chest. I knew then, I was being watched. Every step I took, every move I made, someone was tracking me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled deeper into a web I couldn't escape. And just as I thought I might have a hold on it, something broke. The phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Victoria. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. But as I reached for the phone, a voice from the doorway stopped me cold. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I turned. Standing there, just inside the room, was Milo Fitch, the family lawyer, the last person I expected to see. His eyes were cold. Calculating. Unless you want to know how deep this goes. The room was heavy with silence. Milo Fitch stood there, his arms crossed, an unreadable expression on his face. The tension between us was palpable, thick as smoke. The last time I'd seen him, he was just a lawyer handling paperwork, a man of few words. But now, standing here, his presence felt like a threat I couldn't ignore. He had always been a shadow in the background, but something about his eyes made it clear he was more than just an innocent bystander. "You're not here to fix anything, Carter," he said, breaking the silence with his calm, cold voice. "You're too late." I clenched my fists, the anger building again, but I held myself together. I wasn't here for a confrontation, not yet. But every second in this house was pulling me deeper into a mess I wasn't ready for. "I don't need your advice, Milo. I need answers," I said through gritted teeth. Milo didn't move, his eyes never leaving mine. "You really think you can fix this? Victoria is in too deep. Your mother. Well, she's a casualty of this game. And you, Carter, you've always been the pawn, the one who didn't fit." I felt a rush of panic. A pawn? All these years, I thought I was just running away from my family's legacy, but now I realized I was part of something I never understood. The pieces were falling into place, but there were too many gaps. Too many things I didn't know. "Why the hell would you be involved?" I shot at him. "You were supposed to be working for us." He didn't flinch. "I've been working for David for a lot longer than you know. That's why I'm still here. And you. You're just waking up to the truth." He paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing. "You really think this is just about a house? Or your mother? It's bigger than that, Carter. You've been part of it all along." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. The weight of his words hit me like a ton of bricks. What did he mean? How was I part of this? "You need to leave, Carter." "It's already too late," Milo added, his voice softening, but there was no sympathy in it. Only finality. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Victoria. "We need to talk." I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. What now? The truth, or more lies? I stormed out of the room without answering him. Every step I took felt heavier. The walls of this house felt like they were closing in on me, pushing me into a corner I couldn't escape. Outside, the sky was darkening, thick clouds rolling in as if nature itself was reflecting the storm inside me. I reached the front door, gripping the handle, but stopped short. My reflection in the glass was distorted, twisted, not just from the rain hitting the surface, but from the man I had become. Who had I become? A man too blind to see the truth until it was right in front of him? I pushed the door open and stepped outside, my mind racing. I needed answers, but not just from Victoria. Something wasn't right. It felt like there were strings being pulled behind the scenes, and I was the last one to see it. Every time I tried to get close to the truth, it felt like I was being pushed further away. As I walked toward the car, the air grew colder. A figure stepped out of the shadows, moving silently. I didn't need to see their face to know who it was. The voice gave them away. "Carter, we need to talk." It was David Carrington. I froze. David was the name I'd heard in whispers for years, a shadowy figure behind all the family business, the one who had manipulated things from the shadows. I never expected to see him here, standing in my own driveway. Not like this. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, taking a step back. David's cold, calculating eyes met mine, and he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile you give someone when you know they're about to lose everything. "You've been out of the game for too long, Carter," he said, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "But don't worry, I'm here to bring you back in." I could feel my heart race. "You think you can control me, David?" "Oh, I don't think I can control you." "I know I can. You're already too far in. You just don't know it yet." His words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I was still standing on solid ground or if everything was slipping away from me. "You've been playing your part, Carter. Don't you see?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The house. The money. The lies. Your mother. Victoria's plan. All of it. It's been a long time coming." I took another step back, trying to absorb what he was saying. "You think this is all some game to you? You think you can just control my life like a puppet? You can't, David. I'm done." David's smile faded, and in the blink of an eye, his expression turned cold and menacing. "You think you're done? Carter, you have no idea how deep this goes. You don't get to walk away from this. Not now." The words felt like a slap in the face. I had been so sure that I could fix this. But now, everything was crashing down around me. And David. David was at the center of it all. My phone buzzed again, but this time, it wasn't a message from Victoria. It was from Milo. I hesitated, staring at the screen. And then I heard David's voice, sharp, like a whip. "Answer it, Carter. It's time you found out everything." I took a deep breath and answered the call. I stood there for a moment, frozen. David's words echoed in my mind like a ticking bomb. "You don't get to walk away from this." He was right. I had been running, hiding behind a facade of fixing everything. But now, the truth was clear. My involvement in this mess went deeper than I ever imagined. I had no choice but to play this game, even if I had no idea what the endgame looked like. The sharp scent of rain filled the air, cold and biting. I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched. Someone, somewhere, was always lurking, pulling the strings behind the scenes. I had to figure out how to cut through the webs, but I couldn't trust anyone. Not even myself anymore. I glanced at my phone again. Another message from Victoria. "We need to talk." Talk? After everything that had happened, she still wanted to talk? I gritted my teeth, pressing the phone to my ear before I could second-guess myself. "Carter, it's me," she said, her voice shaky. "I'm scared. They're closing in on us." "Who?" I demanded, the frustration creeping into my tone. "Who, Victoria? What the hell is going on?" "I can't explain over the phone. You need to come to the office. Now." I didn't hesitate. My instincts screamed that this was the moment when everything would collapse. I needed to face her, to finally understand why she'd been playing me like a fool for so long. The office building was quiet when I arrived, the lobby empty except for the dim hum of fluorescent lights. I'd never been inside before. Victoria always kept the business separate from our personal life. But now, that separation was gone, and everything felt like it was crumbling into dust. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and I stepped inside. The ride-up was agonizingly slow, each floor a new wave of anticipation crashing into my chest. By the time I reached her office, I could hear the faint sound of someone moving around inside. It was her, I knew it. But who else? I knocked twice, hesitating before pushing the door open. Victoria was standing by the window, her back to me, staring out over the city skyline. There was a weight to her posture that I couldn't ignore, as if she was bracing for impact. Her hands gripped the windowsill tightly, her knuckles white. "You wanted to talk?" I said, my voice low. She turned slowly, her face pale and drawn, eyes red from lack of sleep. The woman I'd married, the one I thought I knew, was barely there anymore. It was as though she was a stranger wearing her skin. "Carter," she whispered, taking a step forward. I didn't want you to find out this way. Find out what? I snapped, my patience wearing thin. What the hell is going on? Victoria hesitated, then reached for a file on the desk. I tried to protect you. I really did. But everything's falling apart, and I couldn't keep the truth from you any longer. She handed me the file. The weight of it felt heavier than any file I'd ever held. My eyes scanned the first page, documents, numbers, contracts. My mind whirred as I tried to make sense of it. The first sentence that jumped out at me made my stomach drop. Transfer of property rights, Carrington Estate to Victoria Fitch. What is this? I choked, my hand trembling as I turned the page. Victoria stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. It's over, Carter. David's plan, he's been controlling everything from the beginning. The estate, your mother's house, everything. He's been setting you up. I blinked, trying to process the weight of her words. What do you mean, setting me up? I didn't know at first, she said, her voice breaking. But he manipulated everything. He used you to get to your mother's estate. He knew if he kept you distracted, he could get your signature on the transfers without you even realizing it. You've been part of his game the whole time. My chest tightened as I realized the magnitude of the betrayal. The game had never been about me getting back to my family, about fixing what was broken. It had always been about control over everything. My house. My money. My life. I thought it was just a mistake, she continued, voice faltering. I didn't know what he was doing until it was too late. By then, I was in too deep, and I couldn't back out. The room spun. So this is your plan? To let him destroy everything we've worked for? I spat, the anger boiling over. No, Carter, I tried to stop it, but she stopped herself, biting her lip. But David is ruthless. He's already using the signed contracts to leverage control. And now, he's after you. Me? I repeated, my mind racing. What does he want from me? Victoria's gaze dropped to the floor. He's using you as a pawn to take over the entire family business. He doesn't care about you. You're just a means to an end. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I demanded. Why now? I couldn't. I was too afraid. But now he's taking everything from us, Carter. Everything. He's already sold the house. Your mother's estate. It's all gone. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I didn't know what to say, my mind reeling from the revelation. David had orchestrated this whole thing, using me as a pawn in his twisted game. What do we do now? I asked, my voice quiet. Victoria stepped closer, her face haunted. There's nothing we can do. He's already moved on to the next step. The paperwork is final. He's taken everything. Except for you. He's going to come after you next. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just about losing my house. It was about losing everything. My family. My legacy. But I wasn't going down without a fight. We can't let him win, I muttered, more to myself than to her. Victoria looked at me, eyes filled with fear. I don't know if we can stop him. We can, I said, my voice hardening with resolve. But we have to act now. There's no time to waste. As I turned to leave the office, the weight of the situation pressed on me like 1,000 pounds. The danger was real. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun. The door clicked shut behind me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, waiting. I barely had time to process Victoria's revelation when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Ethan, an old friend. I know what you're going through. Meet me at the usual spot. Now. The usual spot. That could only mean one place, a rundown bar on the edge of town where we used to meet when things got rough. I didn't hesitate. My mind was spinning, but I knew Ethan was the one person I could trust in this mess. Or so I thought. The walk from my car to the bar felt longer than it should. My mind was too clouded, every step heavy with the weight of what I had just learned. The sound of my boots on the pavement was the only thing breaking the silence, the city humming around me like a machine that was about to break down. I pushed open the door to the bar and the heavy smell of stale beer hit me immediately. The low hum of conversation mixed with clinking glass and the faint sound of a jukebox playing a sad, old tune in the background. Ethan was sitting at a table in the far corner, his usual position. I walked over, trying to keep my face impassive, but I was sure the tension in my body was visible. He looked up when I approached, his face unreadable. Ethan was a tough guy. He had always been the kind of person who kept his emotions under lock and key, but tonight, there was something off about him. I could see it in his eyes. "You okay?" I asked, sitting down across from him. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a long sip from his glass, his eyes still trained on me. The silence between us was thick with unspoken words, like 1,000 things we had never said to each other but had always understood. Finally, he set the glass down, his fingers tapping the edge nervously. "I never wanted you to get dragged into this." But now he trailed off, looking away. I leaned forward. "What the hell are you talking about?" "You don't know the whole picture yet," Ethan said, his voice low. "David's not just playing a game with your family. He's playing you." I felt a cold pit form in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Ethan met my gaze, his expression hard. "He's using you to cover up something much bigger than just the estate. He's been using you to get what he needs, and now he's ready to pull the trigger." I swallowed, trying to process the weight of his words. "What are you talking about?" "I signed the papers. I did everything he wanted." Ethan's eyes darkened. "That's exactly what he wanted. But it wasn't for your family, Carter. It was for his. For something even bigger. He's been grooming you for years, getting you to trust him. The moment you signed those documents, you handed over control, not just of the estate, but of everything." I shook my head, confusion swirling inside me. Everything? What else could he possibly want from me? Ethan paused, then leaned in closer. "He's building an empire. And you're the last piece he needs. It's not just about money. It's about power." A chill ran down my spine. I had been so focused on the house, on the betrayal from my wife, I hadn't considered what David's true intentions were. But Ethan's words rang in my ears now, each one a piece of the puzzle falling into place. "You've got to stop him," Ethan said, his voice urgent. "Before it's too late." I felt a surge of adrenaline. I had been living in a fog, letting everything happen to me. But no more. Ethan was right. It was time to stop running. I had to take control back, whatever the cost. I stood up abruptly, pushing my chair back with force. "I'm going after him." Ethan grabbed my wrist before I could leave. "It's not that simple. You're dealing with a man who has nothing to lose. He's already gone too far." "Then I'll take him down," I said, my voice steady. The anger was starting to build inside me again, the fire that had been dormant for too long. I'm not letting him win. I left the bar without looking back, the weight of the decision heavy in my chest. The night air hit me as I stepped outside, the sharp scent of rain making my head spin. But something wasn't right. The feeling of being watched, of being hunted, crept over me again. I glanced over my shoulder, but the street was empty. Or so I thought. A car was parked across the street, its engine running low. The headlights blinked off, leaving the figure in the driver's seat barely visible. I didn't need to guess who it was. I could feel the eyes on me, even though I couldn't see the person. David's people. They were already one step ahead of me. I couldn't afford to waste any more time. I slid into my car and started the engine, speeding off into the night. The city blurred around me, but my focus was crystal clear. David was playing a dangerous game, and I was going to take the pieces away from him. But the question still lingered in the back of my mind: who could I trust now? I walked through the darkened hall of the mansion, every footstep echoing louder than the last. The house felt suffocating now, like a trap I had built for myself. The walls, once a symbol of my success, now felt like they were closing in, pressing me to make a choice. To confront the truth, or let it consume me. Victoria was in the next room, her voice muffled by the thick walls. I could hear the way she spoke to my mother, the condescending tone, the commands, the cruelty she tried to hide behind a smile. It was all too much to bear. She had become someone I didn't recognize, someone who reveled in control and power. I had thought I could trust her. But then again, trust is a fragile thing, built on lies and false promises. The moment you trust someone with everything, they own you, I whispered to myself. It was a lesson I had learned the hard way. When I stepped into the room, the look on her face was not one of surprise but of recognition. She knew this moment was coming. She had always known. "You should have stayed away, Carter," Victoria said, her voice calm but edged with something darker. "This game isn't meant for you. You never had the stomach for it." I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. "What are you talking about? You've gone too far. You're not just betraying me. You're destroying everything, the family, the legacy." She didn't flinch. Instead, she walked toward me, slow and deliberate, her every movement calculating. "You're weak, Carter. You've always been weak. You let them control you, let them dictate every decision. And now, look where you are." I clenched my fists, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I'm not weak. I'm taking back control. This ends tonight." Victoria smiled, but it wasn't a smile of victory. It was a smile that sent a chill down my spine. "You think you're in control? You really believe you can stop me? You're already too far in." She nodded to someone behind me. I didn't need to turn to know who it was. David stepped forward, his face cold, unreadable. "She's right, Carter. You've already lost." The air in the room thickened. My breath caught in my throat. David had always been a step ahead, manipulating everyone around him, but I hadn't seen it. Not until now. I thought I had been playing the game. But it wasn't a game. It was their game, one they had set in motion long before I ever realized it. "You can't beat us," Victoria continued, her voice dripping with venom. "You were never meant to." I felt the weight of their words, the pressure to just let go and surrender. But in that moment, something snapped inside me. I had been a pawn, a fool, a victim for far too long. It was time to take control, even if it meant losing everything. "You're wrong," I said, my voice steady now. "I don't have to win. I just need to make sure you lose." The room went silent. No one moved. Victoria's smug expression faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. The truth had landed. David's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, but something in the air shifted. I knew I couldn't let them get the upper hand again. I had to act. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope I had taken from the safe earlier, the one with the documents that would expose everything. The hidden clauses, the transactions, the corruption. All of it. "This," I said, holding it up, "is your undoing." Victoria's eyes widened, a flash of panic crossing her face. David didn't even flinch, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hand twitched at his side. I threw the envelope on the table between us. "You think you can manipulate everyone? That you can hide the truth forever? You're wrong." Victoria's composure crumbled. She took a step back, her face flushed with rage. "You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," I said, my voice cold. "And I'm done playing your games." The truth came out. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pretty. But it was enough to tear everything down. Victoria's lies, David's manipulation, the destruction of my family, it all came to light. It wasn't just about taking back control of the house or the wealth or the empire they had built. It was about reclaiming my own life, my own dignity. I had let them define me for too long. I had let them strip me of everything I valued. But no more. I walked out of that house, leaving behind the people who had tried to tear me apart. I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. Some lessons take years to learn, some truths take even longer to accept. But there's one thing I now understand: power isn't something you take. It's something you choose to give up. And once you stop giving it away, you realize how strong you really are. I didn't need the mansion. I didn't need the legacy. What I needed was to stop being afraid. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was walking it on my own terms. And that was enough.